pre-order of the new set. Not as far as I know. With his birthday, and they were gallivanting. They were up in Michigan last weekend, and she's in Texas this week. So I don't know, and I've not really discussed it with him much at all. Which I guess is something else we can break and look at. Because all of the commanders for the new set should now be at least released on the info for them. 4-pack or whatever. Okay. Sure. I don't need 2 though. Sean. I do not need 2. Let's see. Fate. There you go. Forgotten Realms. Why Fate? Forgotten Realms. Cannot spell. This is the Pretzel Rocks app in Streamlabs, Jack, and I just have it on the EDM channel. We did the pop station for a while, but I could tell that we were cycling through the repertoire repeatedly, so I figured, we'll switch it up. So we are on the EDM channel now. Okay, so Forgotten Realms MTG. Let's do Commander in here. See if we can get some more details on it. Okay. So the Aura of Courage is a Aura and Equipment deck. Galia, Kindler of Hope. So each of the commanders, from what I understand, are part of an adventuring party. So she's a paladin with Bant is this color common. No, Bant is... Yes, no, this should be right. Bant is, I believe, this color combination. Correct me if I'm wrong. But, so she's 4/4 for 4, Elf Knight, with Vigilance. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, which I guess I can possibly make this bigger for you guys. And then, of course, I hide it. There we go, that's a little better. Look at the top card of your library at any time. You can cast an aura or equipment spell from the top of the library. When you cast an equipment spell this way, it gains, when this equipment enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. Okay. So, you can cast any aura or equipment, and she makes equipments free to equip, basically. Because you do have to expend the mana to cast the spell. Yeah, and then obviously the aura, when you cast it, is going to target whatever creature anyway. And then the equipment would just hit the battlefield normally, but she makes it to where it actually can be attached to anybody. So that's going to be a excuse me. I almost wanted to say Enchantress deck, but I think Enchantress decks are purely auras and enchantments, whereas she's actually equipment. It honestly fits really well for her being a paladin. And if you think about paladins, because they literally have auras that they give off as a part of their kits, in the characters. I'm not entirely sure that it's been released as to like who she's a paladin of. Zephyrus is the human wizard for Esper, white, blue, black, 2/3. Whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, venture into the dungeon. This ability triggers only once each turn. And then create undead. Whenever you complete a dungeon, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay. Creature cards. So, I would say this is at least a minor self-mill deck called Dungeons of Death, which makes sense because she's the one that's focused on you actually completing dungeons, which are now cards in this set. I think they're enchantments. I'm not sure what the actual card type is, other than it might just be straight dungeon by itself. Might be a new card type. But she's gonna at least give you the advantage of milling yourself and giving you then the completions of the dungeons. The fact you can only do it once each turn doesn't make her broken. It actually is gonna make that kind of hard, or at least a pain to do, because you're doing that. Now, that says once each turn, so if this is a normal 4-man commander, then you can trigger, if you've got, instants that are going to mill you, you can technically do that. Then by the time you get back to your turn, you can do that 4 times if you've got the cards in your hand. So this is going to be I foresee a draw and a self-mill deck. Or if it is mill, then you're going to have the suite of stuff to where you can get it back, or at least cast it from the graveyard for value. Interesting. So that one's probably going to take some actual tinkering with it for it to go off. Also, for you guys, if you're curious, these decks will have, as most of the commander product does, have alternate commanders. And for these, the alternate commander, I believe there's only one. There might be a secondary, but a legendary creature, but it may not have all the colors. But I know for a fact that one of the alternate commanders in this are going to be the monsters. Because the main commander, these guys that we're looking through here, are the adventuring party. And then within the deck is the monsters, I guess, that they fight or defeat. And they are going to be the alternate commander option within the deck. Which I thought was cool. Honestly, it was an interesting idea. Okay, Braundis. This is the Draconic Rage deck. 5/4 Dragon Barbarian for 3 and red-green, who has Enrage. Whenever he is dealt damage, you may create a 5/4 red and green dragon spirit creature token with when this creature deals damage, sacrifice it. Whenever you roll 1 or more dice, you may have Braundis deal 1 damage to itself. So the way that they built this was in D&D, barbarians have the option of being totem barbarians. Actually, they might specifically have that as their base kit. And so you have different animals that you can have tied to your totem that give you different abilities. So that's kind of what they've done here, is it triggers his totem spirit ability, which replicates himself for a small amount of time. Honestly, not a pretty cool idea. and he's a Dragonborn, which is also interesting. Looks to be either a bronze or copper dragon, which I'm not sure on the stats of those guys off the top of my head. But this would seem to be, I don't know, it might be a fight deck. It might be, this one's probably the one that's not the most clear cut thus far. It might be a fight deck, it might be a Voltron deck. I would probably lean less to Voltron because we've already got the equipments and enchantment deck as an option. So I would lean more towards possibly just big dumb idiots. Or it might just be Enrage. Barbarian Tribal? Are there that many barbarians? Barbarian. That was the name. I want types as well. Man, I cannot spell the name or the word. Gatherer has been wonky for me lately, man. It does not want to cooperate. So it is a creature type. Can I advance search for
Tight pants.
Hey Padlock. We are looking through the new Commander product for oh my god, it's literally right there, you stupid. For the Forgotten Realms, for the new set that's supposed to come out in a couple weeks. But yeah, welcome in. Glad to see ya. And we are trying to figure out. Oh my gosh, Jack, these are so old. They would have to print a lot of new barbarians for this to be Barbarian Tribal. I enjoy how there's a Barbarian Horror. What is this card? Three for 4, first strike, Barbarian Horror. Threshold. As long as 7 or more cards in your graveyard, it gets +1/+1, is black, and has 2 black tap, destroy target red creature. Interesting. So I don't see that happening. I honestly don't know what Braundis is going to be. I mean, it's red-green, so it's probably got a ramp suite. It's also red-green, so it's got its creature. That's going to be the ultimate commander. Is probably some big, huge, massive thingamabob. I don't know. It's just, like I say, that's not the most, that's the one that's the hardest to figure out so far. But yeah, Padlock, so they released the new commander, the frontline commanders of the commander product at least. So Braundis is our Dragonborn Barbarian for the Draconic Rage deck. Not sure what you want Barbarian Tribal? Hey, I'm here for it if they decide to do it, but they're gonna have to probably make, let's see, what Tribal is, I think it's 7 or more. Nice! Silmagar honestly would be a cool, I need to remember what he actually does, but He sounds like he would be a cool commander. Sephrus is our human wizard, who is basically on a self-mill strategy for going through the new dungeon cards. And then Galia is our elf paladin, who is aura and equipment matters, basically. And then the last one is Prosper, who is the tiefling warlock. And they just added the subtype warlock here recently, so haha. Ooh, that is pretty good. That sounds like a primo commander, to be honest, in those color combos. Get to steal all the things. Okay, so Tiefling Warlock 1/4 for 2 black red. He has Death Touch, and at the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. Whenever you play a card from exile, create a treasure token. Interesting. I mean, 3/5 for 4 blue, 4 blue black. I don't know. So majority of the cards that say like exile this are honestly in blue more than they are. I mean, there are black. I don't know that there are really any red. So like, other than him as an effect, that would be my other only guess as to you're specifically exiling your own cards, allowing them to be played, and then, you know, basically having him on the field, and then when you do play them, then you grab the treasure token, which, treasure, for anybody who doesn't know, is a, here is sacrifice this artifact, add 1 of any mana color. Turning the tunes down? Sure. I can do that. Well, we were at like 22. I got you at 15 now, so that should be hopefully good. Unless my change doesn't change you. Let me actually... I'm actually curious as to whether it does that or not. Oop. Well, that would... yeah. So that would force it through the... okay, cool. I was gonna say, I think it runs off of my headphones as the output for what you hear, so... yay! Cool. So yeah, so the guys that were given these as their release cards, all released them on the 2nd. So we now have all of the main commander options, and then Gavin gave some more teasers on it as well. And then they did release some more cards, so if we want to look through those, we can. Eye of Vecna. Okay. Enters the battlefield, draw a card, lose 2 life. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card and lose 2 life. So this is a... This is a worse Phyrexian arena. So you actually have to pay for it. And you only get 1 card out of 2 life. Plus you have to pay for it. Druid of the Moon Circle. Looks like you generate a 4/2 creature off of it. 4/2 bear. While it's your turn... Oh, he is a 4/2 bear. Interesting. So he just inverts his power and toughness. The Hand of Vecna. Beginning of your combat, on your turn, equipped creature or creature you control, named Vecna. Wait, Vecna's in the set? Okay. That's news. Plus X plus X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. Okay. Pay 1 life for each card in your hand. Oh, buddy. Inferno of the Star Mounts is a red dragon. Flying in haste, can't be countered. It's +1, so it has fire breathing. When its power becomes 20? Okay, sure, let's pour 20 red mana into this puppy. Deals 20 damage to any target. Well, you can half somebody's life if you've got 20 red mana. Mordenkainen. Draw 2 cards. Put the card from your hand to the bottom of your library. -2. Create a blue dog illusion token with this creature's toughness and power are equal to twice the number of cards in your hand. And then -10. Exchange your hand and library and shuffle. You get an emblem that says you have no maximum hand size. Alright. Well, you better have an infinite combo at that point, because you literally are up to 7 turns away from not being able to draw any cards. Unless you've got something in your hand that you can play that then throws your graveyard into your library. That's interesting. Plate armor, just an equipment that has +3/+3, and the creature has 1, ward 1. Okay, wild shape. Choose 1 until end of turn. Target creature you control has a base power and toughness and becomes the creature and gains the ability. Interesting. Okay, so I want y'all to understand this because this is important. This says Grandmasters of Flowers is a planeswalker, but this is his actual name. This is actually the Platinum Dragon Bahamut. And if you read into... hey, DVA. Thanks for coming by. Feel free to lurk. We're just shooting the crap about magic cards. But yeah, thanks for being here. But if you read into the lore of Bahamut, he normally comes to our plane as either a wizened old man or like this, as like a young adventurer. And he is always accompanied by these 7 canaries. And they are actually dragonkin that are shapeshifted and are like his little guardians. And so this is really cool art, honestly. As long as he has 7 or more loyalty counters on him, he then becomes a 7/7 dragon god creature with flying and indestructible. Nice. Oh, he only has pluses. He does not have minuses. Target creature without first strike, double strike, or vigilance can't attack or block until your next turn. Interesting. Search your library and/or graveyard for a card named Monk of the Open Hand. Reveal it and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle. Okay, so Monk of the Open Hand is one of the paths you can take as a monk. And it's just basically one that's focused on you only using your fists. Cool. It's just straight white dragon. Ray of Enfeeblement is a spell within the DND lexicon. Divine Smite is essentially just smite. Here's Monk of the Open Hand. Alright, Flurry of Blows. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a 1/1 counter on Monk of the Open Hand. Okay. So these guys are going to be in... I would say probably just a pure white deck, but... Cool. An elf. Fair. Frost Monster, which is actually a creature from D&D. True Polymorph. Nice. Hydra's Nest. That looks horrifying. Yeah, I need some cheap spells. Yeah, it's kind of like where I was saying either you're running just like white weenie, pure white, with combat tricks, maybe white red. Combat tricks would get you the added +1/+1 counters as well as then bonuses. You might be able to run white green. But yeah, just some cheap spells. I mean, mainly that's probably going to be easiest in combat tricks rather than throwing more creatures on the field, but you could also do that too. Okay, so this Hydra's Nest. If you control 2 or more other lands, it enters the battlefield tap. Boros is not a bad option, honestly. It's one of the ones that's used a lot for equipment and aura stuffs. Because white is just so centered in the auras and enchantments, and then red is tied to artifacts quite a bit and equipment. So Boros, honestly, would not be a bad option because it also has all those damaging spells for just direct damage. If you're throwing, damage to player faces or creature faces or something like that, definitely a good option. So you tap, add a green. For X and green, the land becomes an XX green Hydra creature until the end of turn. But it's still a land. Interesting. So it's a man land, but a situational man. Well, I mean, they're all situational man lands, I guess. Okay, Aserak? I'm not sure how you say that. When it enters the battlefield, if you've completed Tomb of Annihilation, which I believe is one of the dungeon cards, return him to your hand and venture into a dungeon. Whenever he attacks, Aserak. Yeah. Whenever he attacks, for each opponent, You create a 2/2 black zombie creature token unless that player sacrifices a creature. Interesting. And he's a 5/5 with no keywords. Obviously, like some sort of necromancer or lich. But I don't know that I really care for the card. Long rest. Nice. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each mana from a treasure. Oh, excuse me. That was spent to cast the spell. Okay. So, treasure's going to be very important, it looks like, maybe in this set. Because who was it that created treasure? Oh, the Tiefling Warlock. Which is not going to help you with a green card. So yeah, definitely going to be tied to treasure, which makes sense. Honestly, for it being D&D. Oh, sorry. Yes, I was going to look him up. A Johnny, Mentor of Heroes. That's the one that buffs. Journey of Nyx. That was... Isn't this his first green-white version? Okay, and your question was as a commander. Let me actually make sure. Can you... Okay, Jessica says it specifically. Jace is a legendary creature that flips. Tybalt, Cosmic Imposter, is a legendary creature that can flip. Will and Rowan say they can be the commander because they're on one card. Tevashot. So I don't think you're going to be able to play it as the commander in normal commander padlock. Unless it specifically stipulates that you can. It's only Brawl that you're going to be able to play whatever Planeswalker. They have not changed it yet to where you can actually do that in just straight Commander. Only in Brawl. But, as for him... Distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, just the card he got. And then 2 or 3 creatures you control. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an aura, creature, or planeswalker card from among them. And put it in your hand. Rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I would probably say his best type of deck. Ooh, nice. His best beneficial option. Hey, Corey. Yeah, we're just talking crap about Magic. Welcome by, man. Glad you could come by. Probably the best type of deck that he's going to be in Padlock is going to be one that's +1/+1 counters centered with that top ability. I would say life gain also would not be a bad idea, but with it being -8 and you're five turns away from being able to ult him, the likelihood of somebody just outright killing him is fairly high before you can even get to that. So I would say, if you're not worried about the counters, go for the second ability just to try and get another good card in your hand, and also to try and get the loyalty number up. But yeah, I would say some sort of green-white counters deck would probably be your best bet for a Mentor of Heroes and a Johnny. Trying to think, because I think one of the Tristanis, Hog Legend is in her chat. Yeah. One of the Tristanis allows you to, is it populate or proliferate? I don't want to kill that one. Because if you run a Tristani, Discordant is the one that's... No, she just lords everything. Is it the original one? Populate, that's tokens. Okay, so no, not really what you're looking for. That is my bad. I'm trying to think of a commander that you could run. +1/+1 counters. Word. For anybody interested and looking into Commander, EDH Rec is an awesome resource. It is basically a website that pools data from MTG Goldfish, from Tapped Out, from basically all of the major deck building websites, and collates all of that into this site. So you can go in and do 2-color. We're going to do this as an example. Selesnya. You can run themes specifically up here. You can search by commander, which they will list everything here. They will give you the... How do you like morph mechanics? Morph is odd. I never really played around with morph all that much. It wasn't my favorite mechanic. It seemed very jank, in my opinion. Now, there are some, like if you're going to go commanders, there are some commanders, and if you have a well-oiled commander, you can get some good value off of it. Because it's just, it's not very well supported, I don't think. There are a few cards that specifically state, when this card flips over, or face down cards do whatever, but it's not been in enough sets to Hidden Dragon Slayer. Lifelink Megamorph. Yeah, it's one of the Megamorph ones. Destroy target. Yeah. Part of the problem is that morphs are only 2/2s. Like, you're paying 3 mana for a 2/2 that you then have to pay basically the rest of what you would normally have to pay for the creature just to hit the board. And usually, if they're, mediocre to low end on the spectrum of a Megamorph or a Morph, they're already probably not much better than a 2/2 on the other side. Now, some have good abilities, and by all means, have at it. But yeah, it was not really my go-to. Now, I can think of 2 commanders that are going to be specifically tied to those. And they can be pretty powerful with those decks. One is a Naiad commander, and one is a... I think it's a Sultai? Yes. So Kadena is probably your toppest tier Morph commander, because each first face down spell you cast is free, and then whenever a face down creature you control enters the battlefield, you get a free card. So you basically replace the slot that you just expended by playing the card. You put a new card in your hand. She was one of the more powerful decks of this commander set when it came out. Your other option for the Naya color, which is red, white, and green, is... Where is he at? Is it Naya? Maybe it's not Naya. It might be Teamer. Yeah, green, blue, black, blue. Yep. Anamar is your other one. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then creature spells you cast cost 1 colorless less for each +1/+1 counter on him. So basically, if you've got him out, which he's only 3 mana to play a Morph, he gets a +1/+1 counter. Play your next Morph for 2 +1/+1 counter. And then, play your next Morph for 1 +1/+1 counter, and then every other Morph the rest of the game, as long as he's on the battlefield, is free. Plus he keeps becoming bigger as time goes on, and he has protection from white and black, which is so many of targeted removal exiling or destroying, because white and black are your main 2 colors for doing that. So would be not a bad option if you wanted to do actual Morph and run down that route, pick out the good ones that there are, because Morph and Megamorph, I mean, there are, obviously you have the creatures, and then there's a few cards that facilitate that. But I mean, just clicking on Anamar here on EDH, usually they changed this here recently. So it doesn't have... Originally, there was the different... Oh, here we go. Themes. There we go. So there's 356 decks that this site has for the Morph theme. So if we click on it, it gives you all of the data for this theme. How many creatures are in it, which is 46, because a lot of them are going to be utility for the Morph and Megamorph abilities. They're going to be, take the spots of a lot of your sorcery in your instance, because, flipping them over is an instant trigger. 34 lands, 1 planeswalker, and this is just the average. Obviously, I normally use it for at least the breakdown myself, and then this is what the mana curve averages out. And then you just look through it, and it shows you, newly released cards in the past couple sets that work with this theme. It shows specifically high synergy cards, which honestly, a lot of these are just straight Morph. That one, interesting. And then top cards outside of that. Most of these usually are creatures, but then it has its own creature section, which, if you're going to run 42 creatures in this deck on an average, that's probably going to be fairly large and extensive. Then it has your instants, your sorceries, your utility artifacts, enchantments, planeswalkers, which in this deck, it gives you 3, and it gives you a percentage of how many there are in the amount of decks that have been submitted. Looks like Vivian Champion of the Wilds is the top tier option if you're going to select one like it suggests in the average. Ugin looks like he manifests. Cards off the top of your deck. Honestly, I would probably run Ugin as your option here. But, I mean, that's just my opinion. But then you have utility lands, mana artifacts, and then your normal lands. But yeah, this site is great. 10 out of 10, would recommend. I use it basically every deck I make. But yeah, honestly, we could look up a Johnny and see what he's actually in. Mentor. So he's in the cat deck. He's in +1/+1 counters deck, which makes sense. Atraxa, Proliferate, also makes sense. +1/+1 counters. I don't know on this one. I'm not sure why Sigarda is top. Or why he would be in hers. Aura. Interesting. Okay. Lothiel honestly might not be a bad option. Because it's got the life as well as +1/+1 counters. But yeah. You've got Lothiel. I've got like 3 of these. For whatever reason, when this was in the Commander, wasn't it? It was in the Commander. Why do I remember having more? I don't know. Señor de los Banditos Hobgoblin. Nice. Gotta love the Spanish name, man. Does it not even... It's literally the name. Red. Oh, Sigarda. Sigarda, Host of Herons is an odd card, in my opinion. Teleportation Circle. Treasure Vault. Nice. Yeah. Also in the new set, each class has its own enchantment card. Hydrate. Okay, I can do that. I've been talking a lot anyway. And I've not looked at them all. But I thought that was cool that each class has their own enchantment. And they're level cards, rather than being like a saga, which just triggers every... Oh, you have to pay for it. Yeah, Because it's a level. Duh, that's how level cards work. Fair. Yeah, so you pay the initial cost. You get the ability. The second spell you cast each turn costs... Okay, so monk... Okay, interesting. So each class has their own kind of theme, then. So monks are going to be tied toward casting multiple spells in a turn. Paladins make your opponent's spells cost more, as well as buffing the team. The beginning of your upkeep. Interesting. Magic Missile. Spell can't be countered. Deals 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. Fair. The Book of Exalted Deeds. A legendary artifact. Beginning of your end step. Okay. Dinner time! If you gain 3 or more life this turn, create a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying. And then pay 3 white, exile it, put an enlightenment counter on target angel. It gains, you can't lose the game, and your opponents can't win the game. Interesting. That's almost an auto-include in any angel deck, because most angels have white in their color identity. Paladin's Shield. Imrith, Desert Doom, legendary creature dragon. Has ward 4 as long as it's untapped. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Then, if you have fewer than 3 cards in hand, draw cards equal to the difference. Fair enough. Sorcerer class. Enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Creatures you control have tap, add blue or red, spend the mana as only to cast instant or sorcery spells, or to gain a class level. Interesting. Okay, I also want to say, I don't know how many have recognized this, but there is now a legendary token creature hamster whose name is Boo. And he is a 1/1 hamster with trample and haste. And I'm not gonna lie, but I love him. He comes from this card, Minx, the Beloved Ranger. Apparently his animal companion is Boo, and it is a hamster. And the thing is, when he enters the battlefield, he creates Boo as a part of it. And then you pay X until end of turn. Target creature you control has base power and toughness XX and becomes a giant in addition to his other types. Activate only as a sorcery. So, in my headcanon, he's literally just doing enlarge creature on Boo. And he becomes just an XX whatever. And you just have this huge hamster running at your face, or going for the eyes, as the flavor text says. And I'm like, I am so here for this. When they do actually have you rolling d20s in this for cards, which is interesting. Yeah, here's the Cleric class, Bard class. The fact that Bard is red-green is interesting to me. But, you know, whatever. Warlock being black makes sense. So did each color get their own legendary dragon? That's blue. remember there being a white dragon, but it's not legendary. I don't think we had a legendary dragon until Imrith for blue. And then there's one here for green. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, which all of them are going to have apparently, create that many treasure tokens. Woof. Okay. And that's any creature? Whenever a creature you control. Boy, you gonna generate some treasure. Okay. Yeah, you got quite a few cards where you're rolling a d20. That's cool. This is dope art. I cannot lie. Guardian of Faith has Flash, Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, any number of other target creatures you control phase out. That's going to be an include in so many decks. That is just a good card. Helene, Reclusive Painter. Elf Bard, Human Elf Bard. Oh, it's a half elf. He is a half elf. A 1/2 for 2. It enters, create a treasure token. Other creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on them for each mana from a treasure that was spent to cast them. Probably would be an include in the commander deck. Honestly, it would make sense. That would be an augment I would probably look into. Goblin Javelineer. Rime Shield, Frostshine. Cool. Doesn't untap during your untap step. Whenever you gain life, untap it. Nice. Bag of Holding. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Okay. Draw a card, discard a card. Sacrifice the Bag of Holding. Return all cards exiled to their owner's hand. Interesting. Okay. Jaded Sellsword. Brazen Dwarf. Gretchen Titchwillow is a halfling druid 0/4 for 2 who has 2 green-blue draw a card. You may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is very like you're in a deck that just wants to sit back, build up, and then blow off all at one time. Because 0/4, she ain't going to be doing much. Delina Wildmage, an elf shaman. For 3 and a red for a 3/2. Whenever she attacks, choose target creature you control, and then roll a d20. 1 through 14, create a tapped attacking token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it has exile this creature at end of combat. 15 to 20, create one of those tokens, and roll again. Interesting. So you could go off. Possibly, if you're a high roller on that one. You'd be making a lot of stuff. The Deck of Many Things. Roll a d20 and subtract the number of cards from your hand. If the result is 0 or less, discard your hand. Daddy Duty calls. Have a good night. Have a good night, Padlock. Have fun. 1 through 9, return a random card from your graveyard to your hand. Draw 2 cards, put a creature from your any graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. When that creature dies, its owner loses the game. Okay. Interesting. Volo, Guide to Monsters. Whenever you cast a creature spell that doesn't share a creature type with a creature you control, or a creature card in your graveyard, copy that spell.
I just want to go back.
Okay. You could very easily do that in Commander and not have any doubles. Or very few. Wandering Troubadour. Displacer Beast. Nice. I love how it's a +2 mace. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. Nice. Farada, Devil's Chosen. 3/3 for 2 blue-red. Whenever you roll 1 or more dice, Farada Devil's Chosen gains Flying and Menace until end of turn. If any of those results was a 10 or higher, draw a card. Menace on a blue-red card. Interesting. Huh. Arwen of Clan Under. Under what? Ah! When it enters the battlefield, venture into the dungeon. When he attacks, return up to 1 creature card with mana 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield if you completed a dungeon. Okay, interesting. Varus, Silvery Moon Ranger. Interesting. Reach and ward 1 for a 3/3 for 3 elf, half-elf ranger.
I just want to go back.
Whenever you cast a creature spell or planeswalker spell, venture into the dungeon. Ability only triggers once the turn. Whenever you complete a dungeon, create a 2/2 green wolf. Okay, I enjoy how this is a Froghemoth. A frog horror for 3 green. It's a 4/4 with trample and haste. Deals combat damage to a player. Exile up to that many cards from their graveyard. Put a 1/1 counter for each creature card exiled this way. You gain 1 life for each non-creature. Okay. It's a beefed up Scuddling Ooze. Interesting. Zalto Fire, Giant Duke. 7/3. Trample. Whenever it's dealt damage, venture into the dungeon. Nice. Human Elf Warlock. She enters the battlefield. Target creature blocks if able. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. Can I just say, like, the art on green-black cards are just so nice here lately. Ooh. Hama Pashar is very situational. And it looks like they've released basically the whole set already. Bridal of Baldur's Gate. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses 1 life and mills a card. Then you gain 1 life and scry 1. Whenever you attack, you may pay 2. If you do, target creature can't be blocked this turn. Well, okay. A half-elf rogue. That's honestly a pretty decent card. Targnar, Demon Fang Knoll. Whenever Targnar attacks, if you attack with creatures...
If your hand touches metal, I swear by my pretty floor bonnet, I will end you.
Yeah, basically, that's what her whole philosophy is. Attacking creatures to get +1/+0 until end of turn. And then you can double the power and toughness. Okay. Zario is a new planeswalker. Creatures you control get +1/+0 gain haste. For 0, she can create a 1/1 devil that, when this creature dies, deals 1 damage to any target. And you get an emblem at the end of the first combat phase on your turn. Untap target creature. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. Interesting. Alright, here's Tiger's card. Tiger Tribe Hunter. 4/4 Human Barbarian. Trample. Pack Tactics. Whenever Tiger Tribe Hunter attacks, if you attack with creatures total power 6 or greater, apparently that's going to be a theme in red-green, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Tiger Tribe Hunter deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to target creature. Interesting. Where are the tigers, though? The dueling rapier. Nice. Adult Gold Dragon. Just literally a flying lifelink and a haste 4/3 for 5. Huh. Green dragon, black dragon. Ebon Death, Draco Lich. 5/2 for a zombie dragon. Flash flying, when it enters the battlefield, it enters tapped. You may cast it from your graveyard if a creature not named Ebon Death, Draco Lich died this turn. Interesting. Book of the Vile... Oh, sorry. The Book of Vile Darkness. Beginning of your end step. If you lost 2 or more life this turn, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Exile the book and artifacts you control named Eye of Vecna, Hand of Vecna. Create Vecna, a legendary 8/8 black zombie god creature token with indestructible. It gains all triggered abilities of the exiled cards. Okay. Oh, werewolf. Interesting. Nice. Bull's strength. Cool. An intellect devourer. Well, here's the white dragon. Flying Vigilance 4/3. When it dies, create a token that's basically it with... Oh no. Tongue. Equipped creature gets +2/+0, and whenever it attacks, creature defending player controls is tapped and has an equipped 2. Odd. Okay. It's the purple worms, Corey! We're actually fighting, or have come across, or in the area where these things are actually live, where they come from. Currently in our Pathfinder campaign. Beginning of your upkeep, choose target opponent. Until end of turn, that player can't cast spells. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of their library. Oh, of their library. And you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast spells this way. Oof. That would be an interesting deck. This is very much would be included in the deck that I made for V. And it's honestly pretty cool art too. Oh yeah, so what are these? They're just literally cards that you probably pick out for which dungeon you want to do. They're not enchantments. And Eliwick is one of the new planeswalkers. And then these are the cards that were released previously. All of the lands have some sort of flavor text on them now.